Hey YouTube! So, I did a couple different talks and I will tell you them just really quick about what they were about. That way you can take a look when you get the chance to see the video. So the first one, I talked about Incredibles and what I noticed from the movie. The second one, I was talking about my opinions of Pretty Little Liars and all of the above. Today, we are going to be talking about something a little bit different. We're going to be talking about stores that filed for bankruptcy and ended up getting shut down, and what my opinion is as to why they got shut down. First things first. Now, when I was a little kid, I don't know how old I was. I think I was like 8 or 9 at the time. I went to this restaurant called the Old Spaghetti Factory, and they closed a year after I had visited. I still do not know to this day why it closed, but I think I have a very reasonable explanation. At that moment, our population was still not up to date. It was still kind of a little bit low, and most people didn't really enjoy what they were experiencing as a restaurant from there. They were experiencing like maybe Olive Garden was better, or some other restaurant, maybe it was competition that beat them out. I think that must have some negotiable reason why they lost in the battle. So that's my opinion. The second thing, we're going to be talking about, what store? Oh yeah, Sears. Now, I haven't seen a video about this one before, but it's kind of the usual same thing that you get from normal places, like, oh, they just didn't do successful, but what I think there's more into the details about why Sears closed. Sears focused on a certain amount of animosity of what they were looking for, and I think at that moment, centuries were changing, and people were just not really looking for that century anymore. And then on top of that, with all the competitors that they were going against, and on top of that with Amazon and all the other companies, it just wasn't good enough for them to compete. That may be why they got kicked out, or not kicked out, why they got out of business is because of their competition and just not making the right amount of money and making the right amount of century things to keep their customers coming back. Sorry, I have something in my mouth. Okay. The next store we're going to talk about that is struggling right now currently, but hasn't gone out of business necessarily. I don't know why they're struggling, but I did see a video where a guy was talking about why they were struggling, but I really didn't watch a video as much as why they're struggling, but apparently GameStop is currently struggling right now. They actually already shut down a couple stores, but they haven't shut down any stores here in Idaho, so I don't know. I'm guessing Idaho is now starting to try to work with GameStop to keep them open, because there is a lot of gamers out here. There is a lot of gamers that enjoy gaming, and you just can't get a variety here anymore. You don't have a lot of places you can look for games. I mean, you do have a selection, yes, but some games are much harder to find that gamers want, and the only places you can really look for games are like Target, Walmart, GameStop, Best Buy, and I don't know. Basically, I think the reason why GameStop is struggling is because they mainly focus on certain aspects of video games, and that's not what people want. They want more, but apparently it's not good enough for them. Or they don't focus on the high quality. They focus more on lower quality, and people aren't looking for that. They're looking for new quality. So if they have a hard time finding newer quality there, then it's not up to their standards. They want new, not used, and GameStop does a lot of used. I personally don't really mind used. I basically just want to know the information. Is this game still working? Is there damage? Can it be fixed? Or is there a damage that will cost me where I can't be able to use the game? So those questions are just very simple samples that I really question if it's a used game. But I'm pretty straightforward. If the game is in good condition and it's not dirty, it's not broken, it's still in good condition, then I'm all for it to buy that game. But I think what the people are looking for is newly made games. But GameStop mostly focuses on old games because a lot of people come in to get credit for used games. So yeah, I'm guessing that might be a reason that people don't like used games sometimes, and it's mostly used games there. Okay, next store that I also know that went out of business, and it's kind of a crazy story. My mother used to work there. It was called Shopko. Now, Shopko was a chain of stores. I think it was either made to stay in the Midwest. Unfortunately, they had gone through so many different business or company people buying them out. And in the end, after all of that, the events started to become where they were losing money instead of getting money. And that brings it to where it got very close to their closing. By 2017, they noticed that they were losing money by the hour. And in the years of the early 2000s, they were just starting to notice that they were losing money. And in the end, they knew they had to change something. So they did everything they could to switch out of the Vision 2000 and see if they can continue with the sales that they did. But moving out of the classic zone and moving into the new school, but apparently that wasn't good enough. Apparently the new school store still wasn't what people were looking for per se, and they weren't making enough money. They weren't making enough dough. Apparently all of it was draining out. Apparently they were less succeeding than they were needing to for the year of 2018. In 2018, they announced that they were going to close a certain amount of stores due to some funds not being able to manage the funds. Things started getting worse towards the close of the end of 2018 towards 2019. By that moment, the guy that owned the Sun Capital with Shopko had decided that he wasn't going to work with Shopko anymore. He wanted to go to another job, and he was trying to look for another buyer, but unfortunately no one wanted to buy the store. So they had to shut down all stores. They really lost a lot of their assets, and one of the reasons being is because a lot of people were moving towards the newer stores that had better, much more things to offer. I mean, Shopko did have a lot to offer, but they didn't offer what people were looking for mostly. And that's one of the things. Like, if Shopko would have focused more on a lot of certain things that would probably make those people interested, then they probably would have stayed in business, or maybe even made the store bigger quality, bigger amounts of different things, all of the above, making it better. They also were competing with a lot of people, like they were competing with Amazon. They were competing with JCPenney, Kohl's. They were also competing with Macy's, the big-time industries. So that's what really knocked them out, is because the people that have been in the company for so long in retail had kicked them to the curb and had beat them out of business. Okay, there's a couple more we need to discuss. Let's talk about Redbox. Now, Redbox is still around, but apparently there is a decline in Redbox. Now, I don't know why there's a decline in Redbox, but I'm currently unsure of that. But right now, as I know, maybe the reason being for declining is people want to be able to rent movies, but at the same time, they're competing with the the libraries, public libraries, anywhere around the United States. And they're just competing against libraries, and they're also competing against other places. Like, there is another place that is kind of like a Hastings. We'll get to that later. But it's called Entertain Mart, and that might be what they're competing against this year too. I'm not sure what Redbox is competing against with or why they're declining, but if I would make a guess, just competition all around. Let's talk about Hastings. Now, Hastings closed, and that was in 2016. The reason being for their closure is very, 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 very narrow. They mostly focused on renting movies with them, but when they became bigger and started selling even more things, they kind of were moving into a much riskier position and sticking their toes in something that was a little more challenging and a little hard to expectations to what would make the store a little more noticeable by the people. They really also had another thing that may have took them out because of losing money depending on what people's rewards were. Because it was like GameStop where people would bring in used things and they could get money, rewards, all of the above, and they probably didn't get enough. They probably lost more than what they wanted. They probably needed more money. They probably were low on money at the time, and they probably couldn't compete with the rest of the other companies, which caused them to kind of struggle in the long run. And being able to run a company with all the competition that they were going in at that year, it probably just wasn't good enough for them, and they felt like they were going to continue losing more money, and they just wanted to file for bankruptcy because they didn't think it was meeting the standards for the people that were looking for what they wanted. Because at the time, they were competing with Best Buy, and they were competing with GameStop, and they were also competing with Walmart, because at the time Walmart had a huge technology center at that moment, and it had a lot of technology, which it still does to this day, but at that moment there was a lot to offer for technology. So that kind of makes a little more sense. And they were also competing against Shopko too, because Shopko was open at that time. Okay, there is one other place I would like to talk about, and it is completely different than what we've talked about today. It is another restaurant, and it is an Italian restaurant, and it only happened to have been here in Idaho, at least to my knowledge. I don't know any other location that Primo's would have been at. But to my knowledge, I think I know exactly why Primo's shut down. Primo's was such a stupid competitor to even make the way that they did. They did not run under good staff. The staff were disrespectful. They violated the rules, the codes, all of the above. They didn't care about working there. Costing that, people just really, they lost money because in the beginning, they did fine. But as soon as people realized that their performance wasn't good enough, that's when they started noticing, oh, we don't want to come here anymore if the performance isn't good enough. Like, they're not doing what we want. They're not up to our standards. It's not what we are looking for. The service sucks. The food doesn't taste as good as it is. We have to wait a long time. Or somebody reviewed that a lady was picking her nose when she was setting up the salad bar. It's a lot of different health code issues and stuff like that. And another thing too is with all of that combined, nobody wanting to go to that restaurant anymore, it says it all. Like, you lose money from failing yourself. You can't fail yourself like that. You have to be the bigger person and be the bigger company for your expectations. You have to let the customers see that you are meant for business, that you are going to make good quality food and good quality service. But they didn't really follow that key. They moved more towards something that they thought was successful but wasn't. So yeah, that kind of explains why Primo's went out of business. And they had many different locations. They had one in Nampa for quite some time. That one ended up getting moved over into Caldwell Boulevard, Nampa. That one, after being there for a couple of years, finally shut down due to all the issues and due to losing money and the customers not being able to succeed. They went out of business. The one in Caldwell also went out of business, I think. I forgot when it went out of business, but it went out of business before the Nampa one, I'm pretty sure. There was only one location left, I think. It was either in Boise or Meridian. But apparently they weren't successful in all of that, and they shut that one down a little bit later on. I did get a chance to go to that one, and they did perfect. They did it way better than the Nampa one. I don't know what went wrong with that one. I think they may have accidentally turned down to the worst, or being the only business here in Idaho, they just weren't able to compete with everything else with only one store left. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe it was different reasons why that one closed and not the same reason for the Nampa and Caldwell location. It kind of makes sense if only one location, which was that one, left and they didn't succeed, was because they were only one group. It kind of is hard to partner with only one group when it was a chain. So I'm guessing that's why the last remaining store closed. Please like and subscribe this group video. I'll be talking more on different talks about different things. I'll probably only do about 2 more, and then I'll probably be done with the talks for a little while. I just wanted a variety of different videos because I kind of want to mix around and give you my full opinion about everything. That way you can get to know me better, because I like my fans getting to know me better and hearing my opinions out and seeing if my opinions are the same as yours or if they're a little bit different. It's kind of interesting that way. Anyway, please catch my next video. I might have another video in the next couple days. So yeah, check out for that. I'll see you next time.